What if the way you think about money is the exact reason you're not making more of it? Not your strategy, not the market, not bad luck. The belief underneath every financial decision you've ever made. Because here's what nobody tells you at the start of this journey. You can learn every pattern, master every indicator, sit at the charts for 10 hours a day, and still lose. Not from lack of knowledge, from what you believe money is supposed to do for you. That belief is either your greatest asset or your most expensive liability. Once you see it clearly, it changes everything. Not just how you trade, how you live. Let's go. Most people believe money comes from effort, so they work harder, learn more, wait for the perfect setup, the perfect opportunity, the perfect moment to finally get ahead. But almost nobody asks the more important question underneath all of that. Why do I want money so badly? The first answer feels obvious. Freedom, security, options, a life without the low-level anxiety of not having enough. Those are real answers, but they're not the whole story. Because if security were really what people were chasing, there would be a point where they arrived, where they had enough and stopped pushing. That point rarely comes. Someone doubles their income and immediately recalibrates upward. A trader has their best month ever and feels the same underlying restlessness by the following week. Someone reaches a financial goal they spent years working toward and discovers, uncomfortably, that they feel almost exactly the same as before. So they set a bigger goal. The question isn't why people want money. The question is why having it doesn't produce the feeling they expected. And the answer to that question is the one most people spend their entire lives never examining. At some point, often without realizing it, money stops being a practical tool and starts being an emotional one. It stops being the thing you use to pay rent and build security. It starts being the thing you use to feel respected, to feel safe in a way that goes deeper than physical safety, to feel successful in a way that other people can recognize, to feel like enough. That word, enough, it lives underneath almost every emotionally driven financial decision ever made. The person working 80 hours a week who doesn't need the money isn't chasing income, they're chasing the feeling of not falling behind. The trader who enters another position immediately after a loss isn't chasing profit, they're chasing the removal of the discomfort the loss created. The person who buys the car they can't quite afford isn't buying transportation. They're buying the feeling of being the kind of person that drives that car. Different decisions, same psychology. Money has become responsible for managing an emotional need, and this is where everything starts to cost more than it should. Because money is a terrible therapist, it cannot reliably deliver the emotional states people assign to it. A bigger account doesn't produce lasting confidence. A successful trade doesn't produce lasting security. A financial milestone doesn't produce lasting satisfaction. It produces those feelings briefly. Then they fade, the baseline returns, the chase starts again. Because the emotional need was never really about the money. The money was just the most socially acceptable vehicle for pursuing something that actually lives somewhere else entirely.
Watch what this does inside a trade. You take a loss, real enough to feel. In the seconds after the position closes, a feeling appears that has nothing to do with the chart. Uncomfortable, urgent, needing to be resolved. And your brain, trained by years of associating money with emotional states, reaches for the fastest solution available. Another trade. Not because the next setup is there, because the feeling is there. That is revenge trading at its actual root. Not anger, not recklessness. A misplaced emotional solution to a problem that isn't financial. The same pattern runs through overtrading. The compulsive need to always be in a position isn't about capturing more opportunities. It's about avoiding the silence in which the real question surfaces. Am I actually good at this? As long as a position is open, that question stays suspended. There's always a result pending, always a reason the answer isn't confirmed yet. The moment every position is closed and the silence arrives, it becomes unbearable. So another trade opens, not because the market is offering something real, because discomfort is. And discomfort-driven trading is the most expensive kind there is. The trap tightens in a specific way. The more you believe money will complete you, the more control it has over you. A losing trade stops being a data point in a probabilistic system. It becomes an attack on your confidence, evidence that maybe you're not as capable as you needed to believe. A missed opportunity stops being a setup that didn't qualify. It becomes proof you're falling behind while others advance. Someone else's screenshot of a winning trade stops being neutral information about their journey. It becomes a mirror reflecting your own insufficiency. None of those thoughts come from the market. The market is indifferent. It moves, prices change, positions open and close. None of it carries an opinion about you. The opinions come from the belief that financial outcomes measure personal worth. And once that belief is running, every financial event becomes emotionally loaded. Every gain is a small reassurance. Every loss is a small crisis requiring immediate repair. You're no longer making financial decisions. You're making emotional ones that happen to involve money, which is the most expensive way to be in a market that has no interest in your emotional state whatsoever. Experienced traders describe a moment. You can't manufacture it deliberately. It has to be earned through enough painful, emotionally driven decisions that the pattern finally becomes undeniable. The moment they stopped needing the market to confirm them. When a losing trade became just a losing trade, not a verdict, not a threat, just a data point, expected within the distribution, irrelevant to who they are. And when that shift happened, not as an idea, but as a lived reality, everything changed. Not the strategy, not the setups, the relationship with money changed. Trading became lighter, decisions became faster, not because the market got easier, because they weren't carrying the weight of needing every trade to say something good about them. They were executing a process, clean, consistent, unburdened. And a clean process run consistently produces results that emotionally contaminated decision-making never can, because consistency requires the same quality of decision in session 100 as in session 1. Emotional contamination degrades that quality every single time it's present. The people who build lasting wealth in markets don't get there by becoming better at predicting price. They get there by becoming worse at letting price predict how they feel about themselves.
So how do you actually move from one to the other? Not by thinking differently, by doing something different the next time the pattern activates. When you feel the urge to enter a trade and something feels slightly off, slightly urgent, slightly more emotionally charged than the setup warrants, ask one question before you click. What am I actually trying to feel right now? If the answer is anything other than this setup meets my criteria and I'm executing my process, if the answer involves relief, recovery, or proof of anything, the trade isn't ready. And the most disciplined thing you can do is not take it. The second thing is to examine the expectation underneath your financial goals. Write down your most important current target. Then write what you believe you'll feel when you reach it. Secure, respected, successful, enough. Then ask honestly, is there a way to access that feeling that doesn't require a specific number in your account? Because if there is, you've just identified the actual need. And actual needs can be addressed directly, rather than through the indirect, endlessly deferred route of chasing a number that keeps moving. The third thing is to redefine what a good day means. A good trading day isn't a green day. It's a day where you followed the plan, managed risk correctly, and made decisions from analysis rather than emotion. That definition puts success entirely within your control,
which means success is always available, which means you can succeed regardless of whether the market cooperated. And when success is always available, the emotional stakes of each individual trade drop dramatically. The fourth thing is the most uncomfortable. The next time a small loss produces a disproportionately large emotional response, the next time you're still thinking about a trade 3 hours later that objectively shouldn't warrant it, sit with the discomfort long enough to ask what it's actually about. Not the trade, what the trade touched, what belief it challenged, what version of yourself it temporarily threatened. Because the answer to that question is worth more than any strategy you'll ever find. It shows you exactly where your relationship with money is costing you specifically, in real numbers attached to real decisions. You cannot change a pattern you haven't clearly identified. Before you ask how to make more money, ask what you expect money to fix. Because if money is carrying the weight of your confidence, your self-worth, your sense of being enough, no amount will ever feel like enough. Not because the goal is too small, because it's pointed at the wrong problem. The financial solution cannot fix the emotional need. It can only temporarily quiet it. The biggest financial breakthrough you'll ever have won't happen in your account. It will happen the moment a losing trade is just a losing trade. Someone else's success has nothing to do with your story. The market can move against you without moving you. That's not detachment, that's clarity. And clarity, applied consistently to financial decisions, compounds in ways that emotionally driven decision-making never will. The market doesn't decide your worth. The moment you stop asking it to, the moment money becomes a tool again instead of a mirror, you will make better decisions with it than you ever have before. Not because you know more, because you finally need less from it. Your growth as a trader begins with self-awareness. The rest follows.